Welcome to Bound by Books, a podcast of 5 authors across the genres talking about that one thing that we are all bound by, books. I am your host, Danielle Bannister, and I'm joined today with one of my other co-hosts, Sherri Hayes. Welcome, Sherri.
Hey, Danielle, how are you?
I'm doing. I'm still here. I'm alive and kicking.
Oh, well, we're having like an Indian summer here, I guess.
It's kind of warm here too, and I live in Maine, and I'm like, not that I'm complaining, but where's the cold? Where's the snow?
I was going to say, have you guys had your first snow yet? Because we have not.
No.
Okay, I was just checking because
I'm ready. I got my shovel. I got the sand in my car.
We usually get some flurries in October, and it was nothing.
Yeah,
and I'm
like 1 or 2 frosts, and that's about it.
Yeah, we've had a few frosts, but nothing major, and no snow. I'm like, please don't let it all dump at one time.
Yeah, as much as I hate the snow, shoveling the snow, driving in the snow, being in the snow, just snow in general, I hate. Mm-hmm. It does help with the tick population and sort of killing them off. And when we don't have the snow, we have more ticks. So,
yeah. But that is the only advantage, to winter is getting rid of those bugs.
The bugs all go back to hell where they belong. So I'm a big fan of winter for that and that reason alone.
Exactly,
but every other aspect, not so much a fan. And I don't mind a nice boot, a nice warm boot. I'm okay with a nice warm boot in the winter.
Hot chocolate. That is one thing I will say I like winter for, because I can't drink hot chocolate when it's like 80 degrees outside. It just
sweaters, being able to put on sweaters and cozy up and layers and
so there are some advantages. I guess we just got to remember that. Right. But one of the things that this season brings is something called Nanowrimo.
Yes, every author either shouts in joy for this particular time of year or cringes. And there's really only two ways. And yes, November marks National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo for those.
Or Nano.
And if you really want to like really abbreviate it, Nano. But the official abbreviation is NaNoWriMo, but we get lazy and we just say nano because that's a lot of syllables.
It amazes me because you can always tell when you're in author groups and it's a newbie author or an aspiring author, because all the other authors around them are talking about NaNoWriMo or Nano, and they're going, what is this? What are you talking about? Because if you're outside of the writer community, like I never knew what the heck it was until I, became a published author. I was like, what is this? Yeah. So if you happen to be listening or watching us on YouTube, NaNoWriMo, if you are unaware, it is a website that you can go to, nanowrimo.org, and you can sign up in November to write 50,000 words in 30 days. So it's a challenge to sort of write with literary abandon and try to write a novel in the month of November. 50,000 words is kind of a short novel, but it's still a novel. You've done it. And if you can get 1,667 words a day, you can reach your nano goal. And what do you get? If you win Nano, Sherri, is it notoriety? Do you get a cash prize? What is it that you get for winning? You get pride and a little certificate.
You do. You get a certificate like this.
Which means you obviously participate in, and have in the past.
I have. I keep a frame with all of my past winning certificates. So I had to go back and like actually see how long I've actually been doing this for. And it's I started back in 2011, but I never got a certificate. I didn't have a certificate. Either I didn't know that there was one that you could print, or they didn't have them to print. I don't know. But according to my Nano stats, I did something in 2011. And then the next year that I did something wasn't until 2014. And I did not win because I didn't know enough about how to care for my hands then. I have carpal tunnel and tennis elbow, and I didn't know I didn't had any therapy, so I didn't know anything. So I basically ruined my hands, and so I literally couldn't type, and I was so heartbroken because I got so close, and I was so sad. So my daughter made me a certificate that year for being close enough. So of course I had to fit that. I did win that
is
year.
adorable.
I did win that year. So that went up on the wall as well. So yeah, you don't get anything outside of, yay, I did it. It's a personal goal. It is just something that's supposed to sort of help teach you the habit of writing daily, of putting writing as a priority, a little kickstart in your writing journey, as it were, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I know a lot. There really is kind of a split down the author community when it comes to NaNoWriMo as far as whether they participate or not. There are some authors that are they are diehard NaNoWriMo people. They do it every year. They really hunker down, and their goal is to get a first draft of a novel down there and just bang it out. And then there are others who are just like, no, doesn't fit into my writing style, doesn't fit into my schedule, because I'm, they set out their schedule, and however it lays out, they just go, and it doesn't fit. And so they completely ignore it for the most part. I kind of fall a little bit in the middle of that. I'm not totally anti NaNoWriMo. I see where it has its benefits, especially in my opinion for new authors. I really think that
it's
if
a good
you
training
are
skill.
If you are an aspiring author, or an author with maybe only 1 or 2 books under your belt, I really see where it could be beneficial, because you are getting into that habit of writing. If not every day, you are having to write at least a word count every week in order to, meet that deadline. You're getting into a shorter deadline period than what a normal book would be, because most books are at least 60,000, if not
depending on the genre.
Plus.
Depending on the genre. It all depends on the genre, and if you're writing a novel or a novella or whatever. But it's I think it's definitely, it's just that sort of that daily practice thing is, am I able to set a goal for myself and achieve it? But it's ironic that NaNoWriMo is actually the platform that taught me that I do not like writing goals in terms of word count. I do not enjoy them. They stress me out. They cause me undue anxiety. I much prefer a chapter goal. So I would much prefer to say, I'm going to write this chapter today. And if it happens to be 3,000 words, that's fine. If it happens to be 1,500 words, that's fine. But the second you slap, you need to have it be at least this. I get anxious.
It gets under your skin, does it?
It does. I'm like, what do you mean I need 20 more words? The sentence is done. I don't want to pad this. I don't want to, So
I actually had that situation yesterday, because like I said, I don't do NaNoWriMo officially. I have my own little thing, and we'll go into that in a minute. But I have a word goal right now of, I'm trying to, I guess I'll go into this now, but
go ahead.
My goal, I have kind of an abbreviated NaNoWriMo goal for November, my goal is to write 30,000 words instead of 50, because 50, I just don't think is realistic for my personal situation. Plus it doesn't really do anything in my publishing journey as far as that goes, because I don't write first drafts like some writers do. So my goal was to write 1,000 words yesterday, and I wrote 980, but it was the end of the chapter. And I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to just, like you said, I don't want to just add words just to add words, because
break up all the it's to it is, it just becomes ridiculous at some point, right?
Because the point is I want it to be a publishable book by the time I'm done. I'm not just putting words on the page just to fill words. So I was like, you know what? 980 is good. I'm good because I wasn't ready. I was like, I'm not going to go and write 40 words into a new chapter. I would rather just start the new chapter tomorrow or today.
Yeah.
But so I was like, okay, I'm just going to call it. It's okay. But you know what? I wrote 8,000 words last week and I was only like supposed to write 7,000. So I was like, I got a little leeway. I got a little room. I'm good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
I mean, on the one hand with NaNoWriMo, if you log in and you say you're going to do your project or whatever, they have this little counter that you can put in your daily word counts.
Right.
And it has these little graphs and stuff that'll like show you what you've done. And there is some sort of like a dopamine rush when you're like, yes, I made that goal. Screw you, Nano, I did it. But there's also the flip side of it is screw you, Nano, I'm 20 words short. How dare you? So
you just gotta hope
it's a double-edged sword.
You just gotta hope you pick up those 20 words like in like the next few days, just an extra 20 words. From there. But exactly. I use a program called WriteTrack.
Oh, I don't know that one.
And it allows you, it's available. It was initially created kind of for NaNoWriMo.
It's a hard one, isn't it?
NaNoWriMo. I can say that word.
It's a one.
It was originally created for that, but I believe it was created more for authors, like full-time authors who wanted to utilize NaNoWriMo as a kind of a, put your head down, get that word count in, but that weren't going to stop at a 50,000 word novel.
Gotcha.
They were going to write a longer story. And so they needed to have the flexibility to put in their, a larger goal, a multi-month goal.
Sure.
So WriteTrack actually allows you to set up a project and put in your word count, your overall word count goal. So like for me, I usually pick 80,000 words. Some of my books are a little less, some of them are a little more, but most of them are right around that 80,000 word mark. And so that's usually what I put in. And then it allows you to tell them how long do you want this goal to go for? Do you want it to be a month? Do you want it to be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year? You get to determine that. And then it will tell you that how many words per day you have to write in order to meet that goal.
They do the math for you.
They do the math for you. And then every day,
kind of program.
Every day when you go in, when you're done writing, you go in just like you would do with Nano, and put in how many words it is. And then it has a little graph at the top that says, so it literally does exactly what you're talking about with Nano, just on, I think, a little more flexible scale.
Yeah.
So, and November is really just a hard month to write because you've got the holidays and it's just, and there's only 30 days in a month, not 31. And it's a problematic time, and we all know this going in, and yet the people that participate, we do it anyway. And then there's a lot of people who had great intentions and they kind of peter out once they get about the 15th of the month, or as they approach the holiday, they're like, yeah, I'm not going to make it. That's been me. I have not won every year that I have participated in, because sometimes life happens, right? And you just have to go where you go. And in fact, this particular project that I'm writing for Nano, I had not planned for. Usually, if I'm going to do Nano, I will at least have a nugget of an idea. I'll have. I was going to say,
you are a planner.
I am.
You are the planner of the group. So if you went in literally with not much.
Exactly. I didn't even have a journal picked out. I had not put. I know. I didn't have my outline formula in here. I didn't have my character sheets. I had nothing. I had no nugget of an idea because I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to do it. I wasn't. And then a friend of mine said on Nano Day 1, I'm looking at a blank screen going, hey, maybe this isn't the year I'm going to pull this one off. She's like, she gave me an idea. Your protagonist comes into a bunch of money, but it comes with a catch. And then boom, there was an idea that instantly sprung into my head. And I'm like, well, damn it, here we go. Here's a project. And so I had to sort of work backwards. So I did that day's word count. And then I went back and I grabbed a journal and I started plotting the thing out. But it's funny how stories are like that.
You couldn't do it without a plan. You couldn't just do it without a plan.
You know what? My first probably 5 or 6 books, I pantsed it. So I can do it.
I can do it. But I can tell you the difference between those first ones that I wrote and my last ones. The first ones required way more time to edit because I was all over the place meandering, and some of the storyline was just like, where are you going? What is the point of your book? What is the story about, woman? And after figuring out the plotting method, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what the story is about. I know what the theme of the story is. I know what the hero's journey is. So it just became clearer as a story writer to write it. I'm still pantsing what's happening in each beat, but now at least I know roughly what beat comes next. So I have a roadmap that at least tells me, turn left here. How you drive down that road, I'll leave up to you, but at least you know left is probably a good idea here. You can go right, but you might get lost, So I guess that's how I see my process.
Interesting. It's very interesting that we have, we really kind of mold, like, we don't really have like the one set, because I literally am like the complete flip side of that, which makes Nano, one of the reasons Nano does not, the traditional Nano does not work for me, because I am a pantser. And so I sit down and I just start writing, but I'm also an author that I tend to publish my first drafts after they get edited. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I do not just write a first draft and put it out there. I'm not that.
Some people are really good at that. Some people can really form that story, and they see the picture and it comes out whole, and it's just, the grammatical stuff that needs changing. I'm more of a word vomit, and then I've got to go and clean up the word vomit.
Yeah, see, I edit as I go, and so
see,
and
I
that's
don't.
another,
I just vomit.
and that is another reason why Nano does not work for me.
Yeah, if you're an editing as you go person, Nano is not gonna. It's gonna be harder for you because you're up against a deadline there, and if you're editing as you go, that's slowing down your process. And with Nano, it's like work, just get it out. And if you're editing,
I can write roughly 500 words in 25 minutes. That's about, and that's if I'm not stuck.
Right.
And sometimes it happens, because again, I'm
even with an outline that happens.
Yeah, with an outline it can happen too. But especially if you're a pantser, because you don't know what's going to happen next. A lot of times, what
do you do when something like that happens to you? Like, do you have like a, I have nothing. This is what I'm going to do to get unstuck. Do you have a plan?
Yeah, usually what I will do, so the first thing I do is just sit there and think about it for a while and see if something comes to me. But if I am really, really, really stuck and nothing is coming, I will go for a walk. I usually will go to a park, go for a walk.
Yep.
And I'm the crazy person that you will see talking to themselves as they're walking, because what I would do is I will talk out the story to myself. I will talk out the backstory to myself, the setup of the characters, what the characters' home life was like growing up, their job, their career. I literally word vomit to myself as I'm walking and just kind of playing everything. And every time a storyline will come to me, because characters, at least that's how I like the characters, just like people, because that's what they are. They're based on people. They're parts. They're made up of parts of their past, their experiences, their upbringing, all of that kind of stuff, their morals, their values, how they view the world, all of that goes into who they are and the decisions that they make. And so if I can articulate that and figure that out and be like, okay, this is where this character is right now, and this is where they're coming from, and this is their experience with that particular aspect of what the situation is going on right now, how would they react? What would they do? And that always will jump off of something, because the story I'm working on right now is the third full-length novel in my Serpent's Kiss series.
Nice.
It's His Forbidden Kiss. It will be out sometime early next year. cross surfers. And this has been kind of a book that's been in the works for a while, but these are two people that have known each other for years. They've known each other since they were 17 and 15 respectively.
Mhm.
And they have been really in love with each other, or at least crushing on each other, for pretty much that entire time. So it's been like 17 years that they have been crushing on each other. But he is her brother's best friend. And so there's that forbidden aspect in there.
Yeah.
So, and then she is also very, it's a BDSM story. So he's a dominant, she's a submissive, but she's a new submissive, and she's very used to being in control of her own life. She's the vice president of marketing. You know,
well, she needs someone to be in control for a second.
Exactly.
She needs to let go and let somebody else be in charge.
Exactly. But again, knowing all those aspects of her life and having that backstory, having that setup, that character development helps figuring out, especially as a pantser, what in the world my characters are going to do and what obstacles they may face. Because, you know, again, having their history, you know, these are not two people that have, you know, they're just met off the street. You've got a history there. You've got, you know, you've got living their, you know, their separate lives, but their together lives. So it's interesting. So speaking of things we're doing for NaNoWriMo, what is your project that you're working on?
Well,
that you kind of pantsed.
that I kind of pantsed and pulled out of my bottom. At this point, it's called A Single Step. It's probably not going to say that, but that's just what popped into my head. Sometimes you just have to have a working title in your head. But it's going to be about a wealthy agoraphobic who does not leave his house under any circumstances, hasn't in the last 10 years or so. And he is living in his mother's mansion. It's really his mother's money. And his mother is basically like, I am never going to get rid of him, am I? He's going to be with me forever and ever and ever. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to set you up. I'm going to get you married off so I don't have to, you know, necessarily worry about having to make sure that somebody's taking care of you. And so she just pulls somebody from her office that she thinks her son might like. And so that's sort of the setup, is this, you know, here,
I'm not sure.
Marry my son.
I'm feeling really sorry for this woman that she's setting up with her son. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's sort of the premise right now.
So is it a romantic comedy?
It's a romance right now, and I'm trying to see if there's enough in there to warrant some comedy. We'll see. I mean, I'm only 9 chapters in, so we'll see how it flushes out. But you know, I think so far I'm having fun with it. So it's probably going to lead more toward like a funner romance than something dark and like depressing. But
yeah, unlike your
see.
Complete opposite of your Girl on Fire.
Girl on Fire. Girl on Fire is not a happy story. I can't help it. I am a Libra. I have 2 sides to me. I have a light and fluffy side, and I have a dark and serious side. And they both want to come out, and they both want to play. It's not my fault. Now, here's sorry. I also have a theater background, so I'm a little dramatic. So I did want to talk to you a little bit about, because this is something that I've noticed personally. Maybe you've noticed this as well. But I have noticed that I see a lot of December and January releases that are NaNoWriMo projects. Do you see that as well? And and if so, is that something that you would advise? Maybe some new authors who are doing that and are like, I've got it done. I finished it November 30th. Let's put it out on sale right now. I mean, do you?
I would never recommend a December release ever. ever. Yeah. January, we may be able to discuss. And for
after the first of the month,
right after the first,
not that first week.
Yes,
yeah.
not the first week, but
Yeah.
let's just say we're talking like mid-January into
Yeah.
January. I'm
Then
okay
people
with
have
that.
money, they want to spend their money that they got. Yeah, sure, fine. But
Right, exactly. Now we're talking nano specifically,
Mhm,
okay?
right.
Book savings. There's a couple of reasons why no December release.
Right.
First of all, it's December, and as far as sales go, typically they are not great.
Right.
And
Unless maybe you have a holiday one in early December, maybe you'll get some good sales for an early December.
Potentially,
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, but the closer things get to December, the harder it is, because people are just, they're thinking Christmas, holidays, vacation,
They're not buying for themselves.
Family.
They're buying for other people. They're not thinking about what they're going to put on their Kindle.
No.
What's going in the stocking?
So there's that.
Yeah.
Second reason to not do in December is because you need some time to have that baby edited.
Yes, please.
I mean,
yes, please.
If you're gonna ask people to pay money to read your book, then you need to actually treat it like a product that people are gonna buy for. You would not want to go to a store and buy a 3-legged chair that was supposed to have 4 legs.
Right.
I mean, you just wouldn't, or what, you want to actually buy a fully formed product.
Yeah.
And,
editors take time to find and go through the manuscript. Now, when we say editor, we don't mean give it to your, cousin who's really good at grammar.
Yeah, no.
That's not an editor. And you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't hire a professional, because especially now with these ebook distributors, they're flagging content that is got a lot of errors and can actually pull your book now if you have those errors. So you could be like doing yourself a major disservice if you don't actually pay for an editor. I mean, I know it costs a lot of money. I know it's painful, but we all have to do it. We have to do it.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, it's not, especially if you're talking a 50,000 word manuscripts, it's not that expensive.
Yeah, it's not. And you can shop around and,
it's just, I mean, I mean, it's compared to the number of hours that a good editor is going to spend going through your manuscript. And if it was a NaNoWrimo, no offense, because again, I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but again, NaNoWrimo is about getting the word count. So most people
getting the first draft.
Yeah, they're first drafts. They're not going in and editing as they go, which means they're giving a very rough draft to an editor, which means it could potentially be a ton of edits and rewrites that need to go through. You need time to go through that. You need time to process that and rewrite that and fix the grammar mistakes and the spelling mistakes and rewrite sentences and, fix plot holes and all of that. And that is just not really feasible realistically in a 2 to 3 week time frame to get that into December. Because again, you ended November 30th. December is the very next. Now, again, January, possibly, if you really worked your butt off in December,
and you happen to find a great cover designer who had time. And, it could be done, but there's a process. It's not just writing the book.
Right.
That's step one.
Step one is writing. Step one is getting the words down the
easy
page.
part, actually. Writing the book is the easy part. It's the hard stuff that comes after.
I don't, but January would be more doable. I just wouldn't recommend first week of January just because of, people are still, coming back from the holiday vacations, getting back to work, kids are going back to school.
They don't need their escape from reality quite yet.
Give them a full week of being back to work and they'll be ready to delve into
again.
the fantasy world again and see if they can throw off that real world and forget about their boss yelling at them because they forgot to fill out some sort of form for so
it's something that I see every year, and every year I think, you know what, they'll learn. they'll learn. I mean, I don't think I ever did one like that, but I'm sure I considered and toyed with it in the early years of like, oh, I've got 50. Does that mean that, I'm sure my memory's not so great, so maybe I don't know, but
Yeah,
this is a word of caution,
I think that's one of the downsides, honestly, of self-publishing.
Yeah.
Because it is so easy to self-publish.
Tremendously easy. And I think that you're
And-
right. It can do a disservice to people who don't really know any better. These might be well-intended people, but they don't understand the process. And
Right. Well, they don't. Yeah, I just don't think they kind of think it through, as they're just so excited that they finished a they finished a story,
it's a huge
and they just
thing if
want
it's
to
your
get it
first
out
time.
there. And
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it really is very, very easy if all you want to do is write the book and put it out there. Because I mean, now Canva has a book cover template, so you can make your own book covers.
Yeah.
And Vellum is very easily available.
If
and
you have a Mac.
Yeah. Well, now you have Atticus.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you
so
can.
I mean,
Yeah.
again,
there are ways, but you have to learn these platforms. You have to understand them, and so there's more than just writing the book. Again, that's the easy part.
Yeah.
It feels like the most monumentous, but all of the stuff that comes with getting your book out there and marketing it and selling it, and it's a whole thing.
So
it's a whole thing.
Okay, so this story that you're working on for Nano.
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna hit those 50,000 words. Are you thinking that that's going to be the entire story, or are you thinking this is just going to be a jumping off point for you?
I think it's going to be a book one in a series. I have written in several siblings into this mix, so it might end up being a sibling series, or it may end up being this particular couple that goes on, depending on where the story ends. But if not, I have okay, we can introduce a sibling and it can be a sibling story. But so I am attempting this as a series starter.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes, but we'll see. But right now that's where we're at. That's
very
where we're at.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm literally in the middle of a story. So
the
I'm
mucky middle.
Yeah, I mean, I had started this story. I had about 6 chapters already written in this story prior to Nano starting, and then I just kind of jumped off from there. And my goal is to have
are these the same characters in the series, or are they different?
No, this series is standalone stories with different couples.
Okay.
So the connection with this series is a private BDSM club.
Gotcha.
In St. Louis. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, those types of stories could go on and on and on. Siblings run out, but couples going to clubs is infinite. So
this
that's
is
pretty
still
smart.
this is a pretty the setup for this series was intentional. I intentionally made it so that it could go on and on and on
as well.
As long as I decided to. I mean, if I decide one of these days that I don't want to have it go on or anything like that, I can always do. But the other thing is because of the setup, if say I decide I want to end that series and start a different club series in a different city or something, because of the way it's set up, I could very easily have another somebody else from a different club, that's going to start a new club.
Sure.
Come and visit.
Sure.
In the last book or next to the last book, whatever.
Yeah.
And then set up a completely different series. Sure. I'm nowhere near that anywhere right now. I mean, like I said, I've
evergreen content. That's what you've got. You've got evergreen content, and that's
it helps
great
because it lets. I like series, which is one of the reasons why I write it. I love series.
A lot of readers do. Series are huge right now because people they get invested in the characters and they want more and more and more of what they like. So series are a great thing if you're starting out as an author. What do I write? Write a series. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been wanting to. I'm really excited because this story, I've been wanting to write this story for a couple of years. And the story that's next in this series, which is a couple that I I introduced in the prequel of the series, and that was several books ago. So I haven't really, but I've been hinting, like dropping hints that these two have. There's something there, but yet there's a 20-some-year age gap. And so
that's a trope too. That's a trope too. There are readers for everything.
I know. I'm excited to write that one though. I've been wanting to write it so bad, and I'm like, no, I gotta set it up, because it really wasn't the way, you have an order of what needs, how
sometimes, sometimes you have to tell your characters, wait, it is not your turn. I will make a note of you, but it is not your turn. You wait. Yeah. They're like children sometimes. You have to discipline them.
Just smack them and just say, sit down and shut up, and
you will get your story eventually.
We'll get there. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm excited to get there, but I got to get this one done first. Right. I'm really excited about it.
So that's something that I guess I was curious about, and I think maybe you just answered it. Do you then only work on one project at a time? Are you just one, get it done, and then completely polish it, and then move on to the next thing?
Yep. I kind of have to, because I am a total pantser, just to keep all the story straight. I mean,
that's a thing. You can keep stories straight? Really? Are you sure? Are you sure
I don't have a handy dandy little notebook to tell me like all the little things. I have to remember. That's why
I have to have a notebook, because I can't remember.
Yeah. So I do one story at a time. I don't jump around. I plow through the one story, tell it like I'm basically watching a movie in my head. But I mean, I'm very spontaneous when I write. Very, very spontaneous. In fact, yesterday I was sending my couple out on a date. Their first official date. So, I mean, granted, again, they've known each other for 17 years.
Right. But it's different when you're friends with someone and then you go on a date with them. It's different. It's different.
So this was their first official date. And I was like, okay, we're going out to dinner. But then I was like, okay, I don't just want them to go out to dinner. I want them to go do something. Sure. And again, I was like, what am I going to let them do? And then it dawned on me. I'm like, okay, well, this is the issue that we're working on. How would he address this issue and get it? So that actually led to what they did on their date.
See, it's problem solving. That's sometimes
problem solving on your feet. That's what pantsing is. It's problem solving on your feet.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. With the few minutes that we have left in our podcast, I'm wondering if it's only 9 days at this point, at this recording, it's 9 days into, the thing. It's probably going to be a little late for somebody to sort of jump in to Nano, but there's no saying that you have to only write in November. So if somebody wanted to say, set themselves a 50,000 word goal for a month, what sort of advice would you give someone before sort of starting out? What would you advise them to do if they wanted to be successful?
I would say, first of all, figure out your writing process. Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? Are you a hybrid person? How much documentation and research do you need to do ahead of time before you start writing? Because obviously, if you're writing, say, a sci-fi story, you need to have a lot more kind of initial work before you dive into the story than if you're writing a contemporary romance.
Yeah, you have to know the world that you're creating, right? You have to know a little bit about it, right?
You got to know what the caste system is. You've got to know, who, what, when, where, how, all of that stuff, the economy. You've got to at least know
what do the aliens look like? How many limbs do they got? All that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really depends. Same with fantasy, historical. I mean, Hannah Byron, one of our fellow co-hosts, she writes historical fiction. Before she even dives into writing a single word on the page, she has to do a plethora of research.
Which is why I don't write historical fiction. I don't like to research.
It's just not my. I won't say never, but
I give myself enough homework as an author. I don't want more, but
Right.
But she loves
exactly.
history, so it's not really, it doesn't feel like a burden to her as it would. as it would to
Exactly.
me.
So my first thing would be know your writing process. Know whether or not you need to do research prior to putting anything down the page. And this should all be done before you, whether you're doing nano or not, before you ever sit down.
Yeah.
But if you're going to
Should be,
try to
shouldn't
do, yes. But if you're going to try to do a word count goal, first of all, be realistic. If 50,000 is not realistic for you, which it's not for me,
Mhm.
Pick something that is realistic. It can be challenging,
Yep.
but it needs to be realistic. If you work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you only have one day a week to really write, you probably aren't going to realistically be able to write 10,000 words in a day. Now, there are a few authors that can, but especially if you're a new author,
You're going to be brain
probably
fried.
not a realistic scenario, but you might be able to write 2,000 or 3,000.
Sure. Or
in a
even
day?
500. I mean, it's 500 more than you would have started with, right?
Yeah. So,
and
yeah.
I
So that
think I would
be
add,
a thing.
I would add to that, to those elements is find out what is the best time that you write. Because some people really will be super productive first thing in the morning before their cup of coffee. They will be on fire, but after 2:00, their brain is just mush. And so if they try to sit down after dinner, they're just not going to be productive. That's something that you only can figure out by sort of experimenting. So, do a little log and just go, you know what, I'm going to try writing in the morning today, and I'm going to try writing in the afternoon, and just kind of see where you felt like your juices were flowing the most. And that's going to be your sweet spot. And you should try to sort of plan accordingly if you can.
I would say if you're going to do that, though, I would recommend doing a week of each.
Yes.
So a week of writing only in the morning and track how many words you wrote and, all of that. And then, a week in the afternoon and a week in the evening. And that way you can see where you're most productive. Because if you just do it one day, you could just have a bad day or a great day.
It's true. It's true.
But if you do a whole week and you be like, okay, I averaged 500 words in my writing time in the morning, and I averaged 1,000 words on my writing time in the evening, or vice versa, then you need to figure out a way to do your writing whenever that's most productive. But but I would say, do, know yourself, have a realistic goal, know when your best writing time is, and then just kind of try to have some fun, enjoy it. I mean, because if you don't enjoy it, then why are you doing it? I mean, for me, writing is very much therapy. It really is. I mean, I won't necessarily, this is the weird thing. I don't know if I would actually say writing is overly enjoyable to me. Like, I don't necessarily have fun doing it all the time.
Depends on the scene.
Right. Exactly. Depends on the scene. But it is very therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
And in that respects, it makes me feel healthier, mentally healthier when I am writing. When I go for extended periods of time without writing, I really can tell that I'm not taking care of my own mental health, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because I'm writing fictional
it's our own
characters.
Form of therapy, but it's still a form of processing. You're allowing to process situations in fictional characters and in hypothetical situations, and it's totally a thing. It's totally a thing.
It is. So
do you want to take us out, or would you like me to take us out?
I can wrap things up.
Okay, wrap us up.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I hope you have enjoyed our little conversation. I don't know if I said little, but our conversation about NaNoWriMo, and maybe it's inspired you to give it a try, maybe this month or next year even, or hey, just give it a try, pick a month and do your own version of NaNoWriMo. But we will be back next week, not Danielle and I, but two of our other hosts will be back next week. This podcast airs at noon Eastern time every Monday. And until next time, happy reading.
Bye-bye. All.
Wait! Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on our website, boundbybookspodcast.com.